to another week of Vital Moments podcast. My name is Amy. I'm the Connections Coordinator for the Poplar Hill site and joined by none other than our lead pastor, Ron, here. Right before, if you are watching us, Ron was doing a big stretch right before we hit go. Last night was our 10th anniversary service. It was unreal. I don't know. That's the word that just keeps coming to me.
Yeah, I'm still trying to process, Amy. And,
Oh,
unfortunately, we've got to rush right in first thing this morning, do the podcast for our Connect groups. And I was kind of thinking about this as I was leaving the house, and even though I left the house in a mad dash. It was this, I kind of feel like we need time to really process it. What happened last night for our 10th anniversary. If you're watching this later in the week, it was this past Sunday night. And I'm hoping to find the right words to describe the experience.
Yeah. There might not really even be the right words. Let's be honest. When God shows up, it's always a different thing and a new thing, and he's so creative and so good. I want a quick start actually by giving some shout outs. I want to shout out to our guest service team, which was represented by all 4 sites. They did an incredible job from the parking lot all the way into the auditorium through the reception and all that stuff. They were just unreal. So if any of you are part of that team, you're listening to this, once again, thank you for being superstars. The way that they quick pivot, navigate, be creative, think on their feet was amazing.
Yeah.
And then our creative arts team, unreal, blew it out of the water. And I know behind the scenes, of course, our producer Josh, who is in on this without seeing him, he was incredible, along with Josh Rosedale. And then, of course, Desiree, who planned that service, prayerfully put that together. It was phenomenal. And then all the pieces within that creative arts in the service part was just phenomenal. So many people put this together. And then also a shout out to our kids team, put together goodie bags for all the kids that were a part of the service that aren't typically a part of the service. And also to North Park Community Church for coming in and providing childcare. They had some of their team show up so that all of us could be part of the service. Anyways, takes so many hands. And I just wanted to start off by just thanking all those people for that.
Yeah, Amy, I agree. There was, when you think about Vitalpoint Church, it is much more than the staff. It is literally the hundreds of people that work behind the scenes to make this church an incredible church that it is. And we often talk about it in staff, the honor it is to work here and to be part of this community and to be part of what God's doing. And I had tons of texts. I shouldn't say a number. I had a lot of text messages last night afterwards. And there were people saying, I really don't like mega churches, but last night gave me a taste of Vitalpoint Church in a way that they've never had before. And I too was so, it had such a great worshipful, is that the right word? Experience, it was big. It was loud. It was just so powerful, but yet it was still us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we have small churches in small towns, and oftentimes when you think of small church in small towns, you don't think the quality of music or the experience. Sometimes people have a perception of churches in small towns can be somewhat cheesy sometimes. And what I love about what we're doing as a church is we're trying to create a space for us to encounter the presence of God. One person said to me after, I know there was production, but I didn't even notice the production because I just found myself in a place of worship. Another person said to me, it was 2 hours long. I didn't even realize it was 2 hours. And I aim
until we all leave and it's dark outside.
Yeah, so true, right? And I am so grateful for this community, and to process it's going to be important. So,
Yeah. There's so many.
We're both kind of like foggy a bit here, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is early
Yeah,
morning
yeah.
podcast after a night of celebration with hundreds and hundreds of
Yeah, yeah.
people. So
Which again, like you said, we're still kind of
yeah,
processing all the pieces, the faces,
yeah,
so incredible. And I think you're so right in that, we came together in this big space, this big community, and yet it was still Vital Point Church.
yeah,
And so cool that we get to gather together as one church, and then we disperse and we spread out and we continue to do what God has put in our hands to do. And so this moment was definitely a landmark moment. I know
mhm,
obviously it was, as we are celebrating 10 years, but in just reflecting on that, all the pieces of it'll be a night that those that were a part of it definitely will remember, I think, for a long time. But I want to jump in.
yeah.
You did an awesome job with your talk. I know I joked in my hosting; it's your best one ever.
You
But
said that before
no,
I
it was
actually
so
gave the talk.
excellent. Yeah. um, but you kicked it off with a psalm that
Mm,
God had placed inside of your heart at the beginning of all of this.
yeah,
Do you want me to start by reading? I want to read it. I'll
yeah.
read it out for
You read
everybody.
it.
So
Yeah.
it's Psalm 40, verse 3, which says, He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in God.
Mhm.
We saw this last night.
We saw this last night, and Amy, you're exactly right. Like one of the things that in 2014, when we were getting ready to merge the two communities together in 2014, I knew that this was a new song, and
Mm,
I knew that God had placed this in us, in me, in us as a church. And last night, when you looked around the room, you saw the many.
mhm.
You never know what God's going to do with what you offer to Him. So, in obedience, you offer it to Him and allow Him to bring the outcome that He desires. And when you look around the room last night, foresights coming together and the stories and the faces of people that have put their trust in Him. And it was evident last night at the new song. And part of it's interesting to me because when we were pursuing a new name, I actually presented new song as an option, but the team that was putting the new name together for Vitalpoint, it didn't make the cut. So, but yeah, what I love about the psalm, Amy, is that is the new song is a song of praise. So there's this upward dynamic. So the song
Mm,
that God gave us was more of to return it back to Him. And in turning it back to Him, there is this revealing aspect of who He is. Think
yeah.
about how powerful that is. I'm going to give you a new
Mhm.
song. It's going to be a song of praise. So now I'm directing it back to Him. But then the reflective or the revealing aspect of it is such a key part of it for the purpose of people to see, fear, and trust. And we live into that each and every week as a church. And
Mhm.
also the new song aspect of it too is when you're open to God allowing a new song to be given to you, either it's a church or even as an individual, um, you
Mhm.
just never know what God's going to do. So you have to hold it with an open
Yeah.
hand, right? I talked a bit about this, I
Mhm.
think last night. It was a bit of a blur last night. Honestly, when I got up to speak, I I don't even really know what was happening. I don't mean that in a weird sense. I just felt like I was part. It didn't feel like I was an individual piece in the service. It felt like I was just an extension of what was happening. And so I'm not sure
Mm.
exactly all that I said. But the realization of what we believed was the vision, we held it with open hands, and God was
Mhm.
reworking and retuning it
Yeah.
for His purposes. And we talked about this
Mm.
last night. So I do you
Yeah.
want me to talk about this?
Yeah. Go for it. Do it.
It's the
Everyone
right time.
listening has no idea what you're doing.
I so last night we gave bracelets to everybody that say "For God so loves small towns," and we was part of our next 10. Right, we celebrated the past 10, and this was a key part of us learning what the next 10 is going to look like. And the response of the community was phenomenal.
Something I was reflecting on with my husband Jeremy, who was a part of the band last night on our way back, was how special last night was in the sense of you being able, as the lead pastor, in person, address the entire community. And in a way that was personal, that was vision casting, that was encouraging, and let's be honest, was prophetic over the gathering of the people. And what a unique moment that was for us as a community to have that opportunity, and for you to have that opportunity to speak into who we are, who each person is, and moving forward with this. And so you talked in your talk about the loaves and the fishes, even though it's not really proper terminology, but we all say it in church. We don't care. Throw the English nonsense. But
we were joking off camera. I messed this up, and you were very kind, saying, like, so first of all, I messed up the first time. I said 5 loaves and 3 fish. Fish. And then, it's like to speak, right, Amy? Your brain is going 1,000 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden I could hear myself saying 3. And I'm like, in the moment, I'm like, what? No. Is it 3? Is it 2? I was so caught off guard because I'm now having a dialogue in that nanosecond about what's going on. And I look over at David, our site pastor from Exeter. He holds up his hand with 5 and 2. It's like, but then,
even David with concussion.
Yeah, even with the concussion, he knew better than I did. But even funnier was Josh, our producer here for the podcast. I didn't even realize I was saying fishes, and that's not even a. But you know what?
I feel like that's common though when people talk about this account, but for those who are unfamiliar with it, it's this account of Jesus speaking to over 5,000 people, and it's getting late in the day, and he tells his disciples, feed them, and they go, all we found was like this little boy who had his lunch pack with his loaves and his fishes, which poor mom, like, I don't know. I got to pack lunches here in a minute. I feel like that's a pretty good move for mom. But anyways, they simply present it, and the disciples are part of this miracle as it's taking place, as God has blessed it. And we see this multiplication thing happen. And you brought that to a reality of us as Vitalpoint Church.
Yeah.
Do you want to just take a second to sort of unpack that a little further for us?
So are you talking about the generational? Are we gonna?
Yeah, because that was like so good. I just want to stand up and scream the whole time, but tried to continue a little bit.
Amy, you're the best. So Desiree and I had been talking a lot about this probably since about February of this year, of how to speak to the generations at Vitalpoint. And so we weren't exactly sure up until about Thursday of this last week that how we were going to do this in a way that would be effective and be impacting the people. So when it came together, I started realizing this could be a very powerful moment. And I talked it through with a good friend, Mike Flute, and he and I, he was very excited about it as well. So to have the, like the grades 5 through 12 stand up and to speak into them, and then to keep them standing, I said to them, don't believe what the world tells you that you can be whatever you want to be, because that bar is way too low. Live into the dreams that God has for your life. That's a better pursuit, right? Pursue that. And then we did the 18 to 30, and then 31 to 45, and then 46 to 60 and 61 plus. And what was beautiful about it was to see each grouping stand, and just the look on their faces, the excitement. And then I think too, Amy, for me, I really love speaking to the early generation, but the 61 plus that are living, believing that they're not needed anymore. And to be able
Yeah.
to literally say, God is giving you dreams and visions for what you can do with your life. Stop letting fear get in the way. And
Mhm.
those two groupings for me, and I think it's a beautiful bookend to the demonstration of the generational aspect of Vital Point Church, to be able to do that for everybody, and to recognize that we all have, like that little boy, we all have things that we can offer to Jesus and let him multiply, let him use. And that for me, I had a number of people say to me afterwards that deeply, deeply impacted them. And, obviously that was very much God working and moving in the room. I was just happened to be a voice at that moment. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of said before, like that is a moment as we've been moving through this vitality series and
Yeah.
unpacking these gifts that God gives to the church through expressions of people.
Yeah.
To me, that was a very powerful moment of the prophetic, of an edification, of the building up of the church in that moment. And
Mm.
and what was so cool to me then is the way that people responded to that, not just saying like, oh, that was really good or I was moved, but actually like moved to action. There were conversations that I
Yeah.
heard of afterwards that
Yeah.
like, I think this ignited something in a lot of people, which is super exciting. And I want to wrap this up because some people weren't there. You made a couple key announcements of how we're moving forward over the next 10 years
Yeah.
of things that we're launching. So I
Yeah.
want you really quick, because we don't want to take up too much of people's time
Yeah.
this week. But can you give us a quick understanding of these things that we're stepping into as
Yeah.
a church?
So first thing was the greenhouse residency. Right. The
Hmm.
greenhouse residency is a key piece for the future of Vital Point Church, where we are going to be training, equipping future leaders, staff for Vital Point Church. We're going to give them a 2-year biblical studies program. We're going to give them 2 years of leadership. That's going to be all overlapped and combined. And then in that, they will serve and lead in somewhere in the life of a church, at a location, at a site for those 2 years, probably moving them around at different experiences so they can begin to figure out what they want. Because I believe that there's going to be future church planters come out of this. There's going to be future site pastors, children's ministry, creative arts, communications, everything. There's things that we don't even know yet that are going to come out of
Mm.
this. Plus, for me, there's also a piece of this, because I get pastors that contact me. Do you know of anyone that we're looking for this to hire in our church? I would love to be able to say, yeah, we've got some students that are coming through the greenhouse that will be ready in a year or two or whatever, and we can
Yeah.
deploy them to other places. The other thing is the Vitality Church Network, which is something that we've been working on now for probably a year and a half behind the scenes, is trying to sort out what this looks like. And essentially what it's going to be is a network for churches in small towns that have the same desire and passion that we do to hold out the gospel of Jesus Christ and to become part of the fabric of those communities. And we want to develop the network, so we're in partnership, learning from each other. So it's not us. Let's face it, Amy, you and I both know we haven't got this figured out. We don't. And I believe that the church can be stronger together in a network of small town churches. I wonder one day in the future if we will host a small town church conference. And
Mm.
I wonder if that's going to come up in the next number of years for us. And we'll see how we can inspire and equip the churches in small towns. With that is the expansion of the global aspect of the network, which is going to be in India, which we're going to be encouraging and supporting a church planting group in India. And we hope to be able to be part of that in a very strong way in the future as well, as part of the network. So those are the two big things. I was hoping, I almost missed it, Amy. You saw it. I almost missed Site 5. Where Site 5 is going to be. And I had to just say, we don't know. We have our idea. We've been praying about a specific town, but we're still waiting for more of God's direction for that. And hopefully one day we'll be able to announce where it is. So,
Yeah, love it. I mean, we will one day,
oh
just
yeah,
maybe not
Yeah, because we
um,
know, Amy, we've talked about this 6 sites by 2027. We're just trusting that God was
sure.
directing that a number of years ago. But who knows beyond that? I mean, that's just 2027. How are we going to see more sites planted in more towns? Because for God so loves small towns. So Vital Point Church can go. It was funny because people were giving me towns and before the event, actually, which was very interesting.
Mm,
Yeah, so we'll see how God opens that up. Maybe we'll have 10 sites in the next number of years, and we'll
mm,
see.
yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting, but also lots of work ahead. And so
Hmm,
there's very much that this isn't just about one person or even staff. This is about an entire community wanting to see the kingdom of God
yeah,
come here on earth and willing to
yeah,
step into those moments and take risks and let God move. So, yeah. Is great.
yeah,
And thank you so much for sharing your heart and for being willing to lead this thing, and be willing to follow
yeah,
God's leading and be obedient to that. And so we're grateful for you, grateful for that message that you brought last night and just allowing yourself to be that tool that God wanted to use to speak to all of us. So I don't know how else to end this off
yeah.
other than it's fantastic. I will quick say, if you are listening to this and you are between those ages of 18 and 25,
Mhm.
we do have an info night coming up very soon for the Greenhouse Residency Program. So if you're at all interested, we just recommend you shoot an email to John, Jon, at vitalpointchurch.com. He is overseeing this, our Clinton site pastor. So he'll
Yeah.
be happy to send you some information so you can find out more about what this is all about. Anyways, happy Monday or whenever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for being part of this. And we look forward to chatting again next week, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
Thanks, Amy.